fantastic to have come. It's wonderful support and we're really, really proud to be here.
I'm going to read a poem called The Heart of the Tree by somebody I've never heard of, Henry Kyler Bunner. What does he plant who plants a tree? He plants a friend of sun and sky. He plants the flag of breezes free, the shaft of beauty towering high. He plants a home to heaven, a nigh for song and mother croon of bird. In hushed and happy twilight heard the treble of heaven's harmony. These things he plants who plants a tree. What does he plant who plants a tree? He plants cool shade and tender rain, and sea and bud of days to be, and years that fade and flush again. He plants the glory of the plain. He plants the forest's heritage, the harvest of a coming age. They joy that unborn eyes shall see these things he plants who plants a tree. What does he plant who plants a tree? He plants in sap and leaf and wood, in love of home and loyalty, and far-cast thought of civic good. His blessing on the neighborhood, who in the hollow of his hand holds all the growth of all our land. A nation's growth from sea to sea stirs in his heart who plants a tree.
I'm going to read a poem which you might wonder whether it's appropriate for this occasion, but I think it's deeply, deeply appropriate, and I think all of you here will probably recognize the connection. It's by Yeats, and it's called September 1913, and it was his savage response to one of the most shameful episodes in our history, the lockout of 1913, which this year, the centenary, we honour the centenary of the lockout. And it was Yeats's frustration, fury, rage, and above all shame, that what we had fought for, what men had died for, the blood that had been shed, that was it for this. Now I feel that the idea of selling our forests to pay off what I call the dirty debts of the banks is as shameful and we must do all within our power to stop this disgraceful act of treachery. So I'm going to read September 1913. What need you, being come to sense, but fumble in a greasy till, and add the halfpence to the pence, and prayer to shivering prayer, until you have dried the marrow from the bone? For men were born to pray and save. Romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. Yet they were of a different kind, the names that stilled your childish play. They have gone about the world like wind, but little time had they to pray, for whom the hangman's rope was spun, and what, God help us, could they save? Romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. Was it for this the wild geese spread the grey wing upon every tide? For this that all that blood was shed? For this Edward Fitzgerald died, and Robert Emmet and Wolfe Tone, all that delirium of the brain? Romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. Yet could we turn the years again and call those exiles as they were in all their loneliness and pain. You'd cry, some woman's yellow hair has maddened every mother's son. They weighed so lightly what they gave, but let them be. They're dead and gone. They're with O'Leary in the grave. And now I'm going to say a little jolly one. It's about 8 lines long, and it's a complete contrast to that. And I'll just tell you a tiny little bit of, it's by a woman called Alice Milligan, who was born in Omagh in County Tyrone. And when she was studying as a student in Dublin, she heard Parnell, one of Parnell's speeches, and it radicalised her. It was about land reform. And she became a really important figure in the literary movement, and she became an ardent nationalist and a great, great poet. And she was sort of whitewashed out of history. But this is one of her poems, and it's called There Will Be Trees. Fallen in Erin are all our leafy forests. The oaks lie buried under a bogland mould. Only in legend dim are they remembered. Only in ancient books their fame is told. But seers who dream of times to come have promised forests will rise where perished these. And of this desolate land it shall be spoken in Tyrconnell of the territories, there are trees.
Ireland, of course, is not the only country that suffered from economic colonialism. But I will do a reading now from a member of a forest people in South America, in the Amazonian basin, who saw their land being sold off, used by outsiders. And I think the economists in Brussels have to realize that we are attached to our land. The commodities they see within the euro are not isolated from the people who live in those lands. And I think today shows that we care about our roots. Ailton Krennick, in his Forest People's Message to the World, writes this: when I look at a lake, it is the home of a creator hero, of someone who participated in the creation of the world, of someone who was there when the world was made. When we go into the forest, we meet our old grandmother, the forest, who gave us the gift of the songs in the trees. We discover our affinities and our relatives, our relationship with life. The blood of the forest is the sap. It runs through the tree until it meets the leaves. Together with the wind, it makes a song. A son of the forest hears these things and memorizes them. In the village he will sing for his people, and if they approve of his song, it will be incorporated into what you could call the musical history of those people. You could arrive in that place 10,000 years later, and after 5 or 10 days, you would hear the relatives singing the same song. Our songs are not an individual creation.
Our bog almost gone, our roots, our fight, our love.
The ceremony songs, the healing songs, the war songs were all gifts from the forest. They were given by the animals, the water, the wind. The author and the composer was nature. People need to see that they live in a wonderful world and that we can organize our lives here without needing to accumulate in the cities, in centers of misery, violence, and illusion.